Good evening, everyone. So good to see you. Many faces that I know for a long time, for long 5 years, I know you already. There are others whom I know for 4 years. There are some whom I know for like 15 years, but they are those dressed with the white around their faces. I believe, Sister Donata, you are the one whom I know the longest from the whole community here. Yes, we've met 2005. 2005, yes, 2005. And then we came here in 2016, and the story continues. So thanks be to God for all of that continuation and all the blessings He bestowed on us. Today, as Sister already said, is the 5th anniversary of our Evenings with Merciful Jesus. And precisely 5 years ago, I intended to give the talk that I will give now. 5 years ago, I started telling you about amazing story that the story of Divine Mercy Message and how Sister Faustina and John Paul II had a very important role in it. And as I finished the talk, I realized I didn't share many facts with you. Actually, almost none. I was so, I don't know, with the Spirit, hopefully with the good Spirit, that I just forgot about telling you the story. I just shared with you all the amazingness of my emotions, but I didn't share much about facts. So today, I'm making up for what was missing then. It took me 5 years. Well, some people obviously have the speed of the snail, and that's me. Let me ask at the beginning, can you hear me well in all the places? I'm pretty stressed with those microphones. It's good in every corner? Okay, great. In case if you stop hearing me, just do this. Like not only this, because I will think you are just applauding me, saying, good job, sister. No, do this. And I will know somehow I lost the volume. The main idea of the Evenings with Merciful Jesus is to share with you the message of mercy that Jesus gave us through Saint Faustina, and then John Paul II took it to the whole world, spread it throughout the whole world. And we are trying to do it with you gradually. So we invite the speakers who will share with you important parts of the message, because the message is so big that to put it in one talk, it's very harmful for the message. We can only share as much in half an hour. That's why every Evening with Merciful Jesus is devoted to a different part of the message, another shade of it, another expression of God's mercy. But today I will try to make some kind of a summary, at least of what's Saint Faustina's role in the message. We are very much aware of the importance of the Divine Mercy Message. Let me just share with you 3 sentences that Jesus said, and Faustina wrote them down in her diary, to emphasize the importance of the message and devotion of the Divine Mercy. Jesus said that through this message, that's the first sentence, through this message, Sister Faustina will prepare the world for Jesus' final coming. That's diary entry 429. The second is that many souls will be saved and sanctified by this work, by the work of Divine Mercy, message and devotion. And that's entry 966. And the third is that many souls will turn away from the gates of hell and praise God's mercy because of this work. And that's entry 639. And therefore, this work will be especially hated and opposed by the powers of hell. And that's entry 639, 412, 764, 1115, etc. There are many who speak about that truth. Those 3 sentences of Jesus are enough to know that this is a very important message for all mankind and for every person to be discovered personally. And there are 2 people who played a key role in bringing this message to all of us. Let's start with Helena Kowalska. Have you noticed that whenever God has big plans, an important mission in store, He delights in choosing people who in the eyes of the world are totally insignificant. For example, such was the case of Bernadette of Lourdes and 3 children of Fatima, and such is the case of Helena Kowalska. Jesus said, I use such weak creatures to carry out my works. It's interesting that God chooses weakness, whereas we choose power. Just on a side note, yesterday I read a very nice thought for reflection. God loves hidden and unknown lives. For this is how He is, hidden and unknown. So going back to the hidden and unknown Helena Kowalska. She was born in Poland, of course, that's something everybody knows. In the year of 1905, yes, someone got it, 1905. So a very difficult time in Poland, in the world generally, but in Poland especially, because Poland doesn't exist at that time. It's not on the maps of the world. It has been partitioned for 123 years, and that's the time when Helena is born, in a country that doesn't exist, in a sense. Helena was one of 10 children. She was born in a poor family, but a good family, religious family, in a village, in an unknown, hidden village in central Poland. She was given just 3 years of primary education, as the difficult political situation didn't give more opportunities. 3 years of schooling and that's it. And you have to move on so that to give a place in the pew for, no, at the desk, right, for another student. 3 grades, that's the whole education she will ever have. And then when she's 16, she needs to mature very quickly and leave her home, go to the city to find a job to support her family. And she started working with richer families, being a housemaid, a nanny. And during that time, she discovers that she actually might have a vocation to a religious life. She wrote in her diary, I sensed that I had a heart so big that nothing would be capable of filling it. And so I turned with all the longing of my soul to God. While visiting her parents 1 year after working at a richer family, she goes back to her village, visits her parents, and she asks them for permission, let me go to the convent. And you would think a religious family, they would be so happy, overjoyed. 1 of 10 has this ambitious and very holy desire to go to the convent. Of course, daughter, we give you our blessing, but no. She didn't receive the blessing. And being a very obedient daughter and really respecting the opinion of the parents and the wish of the parents, she goes back to work. And she tries to ignore the inner voice calling her to religious life. But still, she just cannot find joy and peace in anything. So after a year, she goes back to her parents and asks again, like, really, this is what I want, and I guess this is what God is calling me to, so I want your blessing. And again, she hears no. At that time, she just decided, okay, so I just totally will silence the voice within me. And she starts to focus on regular life of work and sometimes even having fun. She wasn't very much of a party girl, but one day she agreed and her sisters took her to a big party in the city center. She was 19 years old then. During the first dance with a boy, suddenly, for the first time in her life, she saw Jesus. And it was Jesus from the Passion, all covered with wounds. And he said to her, "How long shall I put up with you? How long will you keep putting me off?" I just can't imagine what she felt in that moment. And she didn't even try to describe her feelings. She just described the facts. I saw him, this is what he said, and so I left the party immediately and I ran to the nearest church and I asked him, "What do you want me to do?" And actually, she heard him saying what to do. So from now on, this time begins that many times she will see him and hear him. The importance of the mission she will receive requires special help, which will be in those revelations, in seeing God and hearing God, so that she doesn't have doubts. It's him, not I. So he says to her, "Go immediately to Warsaw, and there you will enter the convent." And so she goes, with no belongings, basically. She just goes to Warsaw, the capital city, this girl from the village, knowing nothing about Warsaw, knowing nothing about big cities, and where precisely to go. But she's so obedient from day one. He says, "I go." She knocks to many convent doors and she's not accepted. Finally, she receives this message of hope from the Sisters of Our Lady of Mercy, the congregation that she will enter a year later, that, okay, maybe we will accept you in a year time. And again, she's just so obedient and so trustful and childlike. Okay, in a year time, okay. And she goes and works for another year. And when she's 20, she comes back to the convent door again, knocks and says, "Here I am." And they received her. They accepted her. She's in Warsaw for several months. Then she leaves to Krakow, where she continues her religious formation. And there she receives a religious name. This first stage of religious life, which is basically just getting to know the sisters, finishes, and she becomes a sister in a white veil, just as our sister Grace, though the veil at that time looked a little bit different, but still a white veil. And she receives the name Faustina, which means happy. Ironically, the first months, the first years basically of her formation will be pretty dark. It will be a time in which God allowed intense purifications in her life. At that time, the awareness of her own misery, weakness, grew tremendously. And she was tormented by the thoughts that God didn't love her, that he rejected her. Despair was knocking to her door on a daily basis. She suffered similarly to those damned souls in hell. Masters of the spiritual life call the state the dark night of the senses. And all the greatest Christian mystics went through this. This is the time when somebody's souls and all the major things like hope, love, faith, they go through tremendous test. And Faustina came out of this dark period cleansed, purged, as gold tested in a fiery furnace. You know, I really love those parts in the Bible or in the writings of Christian mystics when they speak about God as fire. He is this fire that cleanses us. His love is like a fire. He's not this kind, quiet, gentle God that just sits in the corner and accepts whatever. He is consuming fire. And some of us experience it earlier, some later, but we will all experience that love, which is like a burning fire. It's beautiful, it's scary, it's beautiful, both. But that's what true love is. That's how true love is. So this time of cleansing allowed her to get to know herself better. And she wrote in her diary, "I know very well what I am of myself. And the knowledge of my own misery allows me at the same time to know the immensity of God's mercy." And such a confession shows that she was ready for the mission. In humility and awareness of her nothingness, and with her focus on God's mercy, with such a state of mind and heart, with such freedom, living in such freedom and truth, she was ready to be sent to the whole world with God's message. Not with her message, with God's message. So her time in the convent will be split between prayer, community life, work. She will work in the kitchen, in the garden, in a bakery store, at the gate. And in those ordinary surroundings, her mystical experiences continued. Being only 26 years old, she received a vision of key importance in her life, a revelation which marks the beginning of the mission. On February 22nd, that's the first reason why we meet on the 22nd every month. On February 22nd, 1931, she saw Jesus like we see him now on the image. And he said to her, "Paint an image according to the pattern that you see. And I want this image to be first venerated in your chapel and then all over the world. And I will give many graces through it. I want every soul to have access to it." Sister Faustina shared this vision with a priest in confession and with her superiors. And frankly, I'm not surprised. They didn't believe, and they really didn't understand. So Jesus spoke to her again, and he confirmed that, yes, this is what I want. And he even added his next wish, "I desire that there be a feast of mercy." And he added, let the sinner not be afraid to approach me. The flames of mercy are burning me. See again, God is a consuming fire. The flames of mercy are burning me, clamoring to be spent. I want to pour them out upon the souls. For quite a long time, she was left alone with all the revelations, with the mission just waiting on the shelf, so to say, gathering dust, as many books in our bedrooms do. But that was not a book, that was not somebody's story, that was her story, that was her life, that was her mission. And she couldn't do anything about it. She couldn't find support, she couldn't find answers. It was really difficult for her because also in that time, she was trying to excuse herself and tell Jesus, Lord, I'm not good for that. You see, I'm so weak, I'm nothing. I'm no one. I have no means to do the mission you entrust to me. So, Lord, just please find someone else. Many prophets did that. And God never changed his mind. He knows whom he is choosing. The same with Faustina. She tries to excuse herself, but Jesus only confirms, I know whom I chose. He doesn't deny that her misery, but he confirms, I like to act through such souls like you. It was only after nearly 2.5 years from when she had her first vision of Merciful Jesus that she met a priest who took the risk of helping her. Some of you maybe know him. He's already blessed, Father Michael Sopoćko. And he hired a professional painter. And so the first image was completed 3 years after the revelation happened. What a relief it must have been for her that finally something moved. In the meantime, the revelations continued. New parts of the mission were added. And her understanding of the mission entrusted to her deepened. At Jesus' request, she made an act of sacrificing her life for sinners, especially those who lost their hope in God's mercy. She was 29 years old at that time. Soon after that, her health started deteriorating. She developed tuberculosis, from which she soon died at a significant age of 33. But let's not get ahead of the facts. We are still when she's 29. That's where we are in the story. The image was just painted. It couldn't be yet officially venerated, but that was the beginning of fulfilling Jesus' wishes. So it was good already that something started. The image was painted. Soon after, they printed some small prayer cards with the image and the chaplet on the back, as we have them even now. But the first copies were, of course, in black and white. And I believe I saw some where just the rays were colored. I don't know, it was like handmade sisters with, 2 brushes and just adding 2 colors to those black and white prayer cards. And on the back, the chaplet, just like we have it now, very popular all over the world. By the way, the chaplet was also given by Jesus himself. That's also part of the mission, part of the devotion of divine mercy. And Jesus dictated the chaplet 4 years after the revelation of the image. It is during these later years, that Sister Faustina's revelations are taken very seriously by her confessors, spiritual directors, Father Sopoćko, Father Andras, and also by her superiors in the convent. And efforts are made to talk to the church hierarchy, to the bishops, and ultimately to the Pope, of course, especially about instituting the Feast of Divine Mercy. All this takes time, and a lot of effort. The church is slow in making any decisions regarding private revelations. And rightly so. The message has to be precisely tested before it is officially approved by the church. Still, when we know the importance of the message, we really wish it could go faster. In the meantime, Sister Faustina continued having many supernatural experiences. And it's not only Jesus that she sees Mary, angels, saints, souls in purgatory. She even, fortunately, well, that's the reality, she sees demons. She has many special gifts, like the one of bilocation, reading in human souls, prophecy. And all that happens among the very ordinary life. So never underestimate people, never put people in boxes. You never know, really. Someone may look very ordinary, and their life may seem to be very ordinary, but in the depths of their souls, amazing story. Just amazing story. And people found out about the amazing story that was happening within her soul and in her relationship with God basically only after her death, when they started reading her diary. Even her sisters didn't know. Only her superiors, and they kept it secret. And that was good. So Faustina was just an ordinary sister among ordinary sisters, living an extraordinary life. And she wrote the diary, again, not because she decided, oh, my life is so fascinating, I will share it with the world. It was at the exact command of Jesus and at the request of her confessors. She actually didn't want to do it. If you read the diary, you see how intimate it is, and also how difficult are the revelations to describe. Try to describe God and how he makes himself known to you. The very Holy Trinity made themselves known to her. Try to describe that. But she does it, of course. She's so obedient. With time, she grew in awe of the great mystery of God's mercy. She was as if consumed by God's mercy and the beauty of it and the importance of it. So much so that at some point of her life she wrote, "Everything I look at speaks to me of God's mercy. Even God's very justice." Some people think God's justice denies his mercy or like it's contra his mercy. No. They go together. And so those who understand this mystery, they also understand that suffering is not contrary to God's mercy, that the existence of hell doesn't deny or contradict God's mercy. They can see God's mercy in everything. What is divine mercy message that Jesus sends her to the whole world with? Just to make sure we are on the same page. She writes it down in her diary, and her diary, as you've seen the book, I hope you did at least seen the book from the outside. I know many of you read it, at least a few pages. It's a thick book. But the message, if you would like to put it in just one sentence, the message is very simple. It is a powerful reminder about God's unfathomable mercy to us sinners and his burning desire to save us all. And it is a strong call to all the people to trust him and to be merciful to each other. That's a message of great hope, but that's also a very challenging message because it really requires from us a total trust and mercy on every step of the way, which is not easy at all. That message is enriched with 5 new forms of devotion, which all come from Jesus himself, and he attached powerful promises to them. I mentioned 3 of those new forms of devotion already. Now I will make a small test on you. Those new forms of devotion to divine mercy are the image, the second, the chaplet, okay, the third, the feast, wonderful. And there are 2 more, which you might know, actually, I hope you know. Not really. 3 p.m. prayer, and the last one is spreading the Divine Mercy devotion. 5 new forms of devotion to Divine Mercy, which somehow you may say the devotion to Divine Mercy was always there in the church. Like people always venerated God as the merciful one. Of course, since he died on the cross, like it was such a clear and powerful revelation of God's mercy for all, but these new forms were given only in the 20th century. And basically only now, recently, we started fully living out the Divine Mercy message and devotion. Going back to the storyline, Sister Faustina dies being only 33 years old, 1 year before the outbreak of the Second World War. And during her lifetime, this great worldwide mission entrusted to her had only just begun. The image is painted, and that's it, and she dies. And so she could die in despair, basically saying, I didn't do it, just panicking and like, Lord, I didn't do it. And she dies with a smile on her face and peace in her heart. How is it? She had that deep understanding that her mission doesn't end with the moment of her death. What a beautiful belief in eternal life, in communion of saints. She knew she will continue her mission after death. But still, the mission needed human beings who are still alive. The mission needed people who will be totally devoted to it and spread the message. My sisters, they kept on doing whatever they could to spread the message. Faustina confessors, they really gave her their whole lives for that message. Still, there was a need for someone very powerful who would be wholeheartedly dedicated to this mission. This is when 18-year-old Karol Wojtyła, to be precise, moved with his father to Krakow, actually very close to where our convent is, where Faustina was spending the last few months of her life. He soon started college, where he delved into a great love of Polish literature and theater, and he had no clue that he would have a pivotal part to play in this amazing story that God only began with Saint Faustina. But this will be the topic of the next evening with Merciful Jesus. So now, as we pause the story, let's stand the pressure, please. 1 month, just stand the pressure. Or maybe in the meantime, you will start actually reading the diary and other books about the message. And next month, you will come here and you'll just stop me saying, Sister, you don't have to give the talk. We know. We know. Now we will enter into adoration. And make it a time when you will Talk to Jesus about the stirrings of your heart, whatever was moved in you, whatever thought came to you during the talk, maybe during the chaplet, whether there were some desires or cares or fears that came to you. Just talk to Jesus about them. Be open and know that everything, like literally everything that happens to you and with you and in you is important to him. And he uses everything to communicate with you and to create this amazing story out of your life. Just listen attentively and talk to him.